welcome back to Inside the Bunker. I am your host, Chris Carter. I'm with Jessica Morgan. And today, I know as I point over, and today our special guest is Katy Mahard. How are you, Katy?
Oh, I'm doing great. So happy to be here. I really like the name of your podcast.
Oh, you know how hard it is to come up with the name? It is incredibly difficult. So
it's so great. Like when you said it, I was like, ooh, like I got like some chills.
It's working. It's working.
Yeah, I liked it. I was like, ooh.
Awesome. Thank you. And so you were heavily featured in this week's episode, and there's a lot we want to talk about. This is our first real kind of fight that we've seen. And I know you and Brittany choreographed that. And so let me go back. I mean, the way I met Katy, for people that don't know, through Hollywood Horror Nights. And Katy and I were in the same maze. And I remember the power went out one night. And so Katy was like, well, do you have stunt training? Cause I could like throw myself and you could catch me and turn me. I'm like, that would be awesome, but I'm terrified I would drop you. I'm like, but Katy has always been down to do that. So, and just your energy, like when we were working for Universal, like your energy always brought me up because, you're hot, you're tired, your feet hurt. It sucks. By the way, I love your cat, by the way.
Okay.
I
like the glow of her eyes.
Yeah.
The animals make the appearances.
Right.
Quickly after Alien.
I love it. That's such a cool.
Love it.
When we were writing this, I always had a spot. I mean, I remember even being nervous asking you, Katy, because I'm like, damn, she's so good for this. And I'm like, she could say no and she says no. It's like, oh, it'll be cool, but it'll be like a little heartbreaking. But I was so happy because I remember asking, you were really excited about it. And that made me really excited about having you on our project too. So cut. That was so fucking good. Yeah, let's cut it. It was really
nervous.
Cool.
And it was my first time also meeting Jessica.
Yeah.
And because you'd asked me, and I just remember in the email, you said like, Katy, I have like this really, really awesome part that I think you can do because it requires like some movement. And I know that like, based on like Horror Nights, you can do kind of like the movementy stuff. So I'm really hoping you can do it. And I was like, they've never seen me act. Like they're like going in blindly. They have like all this faith in me. And I'm like, they hate me. So like going, I like to like make jokes a lot when I'm nervous too. So I opened, I was like, hey, everybody. And like, made like a bunch of jokes. Really happy to see like you and Brittany and Jessica, you were so awesome to meet for the first time.
Thank you.
So welcoming into your house. And I was all terrified.
It's always so funny because it's like you meet people and then especially like, hey, I'm going to be in your face putting all this stuff on you now. Yeah. Like I have to go full makeup and I'm like, so I'm going to torture you for a little bit. So hopefully you're cool with it.
Love it.
And that's what's funny too. You brought Joe too with you for that one. I remember.
I did.
Yeah, which is so funny because it's like, that's how then I met Joe. I think that's how we both met Joe, right?
Yeah.
And then of course he ends up being in episode 3 as we saw and stuff. So I was gonna say, it's that funny little thing where you just have all these little connections and like just him being willing to help on set, it was enough for us to be like, okay, cool. Like he's willing to hang around. So
can I just come? And I was like, I'm sure it's fine. You can probably help.
And it's true.
He's also an actor.
It's true. Like we're always looking for people. And then like the first time they read him and stuff, I think he was also like helping you with another like read through for something that we're doing. Yeah. And it's like, so that was our first experience seeing him act. And that was when it was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Both of them can act. Like both of these people can act. Like
because we were reading for something else at your place. And I remember like Chris was there because it was for Dustin's project. Right. It was like he was directing. And I just remember Chris was like, so Joe, do you want to be like a hiker in?
Right. Like he just jumps in, like he hears the reading and he's like,
in the middle.
So
I know that this is inappropriate, but
you want to be on my project?
Right. I'm just going to steal some thunder.
Too, but Joe.
Joe was great. I remember thinking he has so much emotion in his face. And honestly, that's why. I mean, Dustin, when we were talking about it, Dustin always kind of had, once he saw the read, he always had Joe in mind for Dark Chronicles, which of course was made in between this. We talk about how long this project is taken, and we did a feature in between. And so but it's funny, you guys, we meet you and Joe through Omega, and then you and Joe end up being cast in Dark Chronicles all the while, you know what I mean? So but yeah, that was cool. But I'm super excited to talk about a couple of things, especially this one. But the body movement, you're right. The way you can move and the way you can kind of contort in your flexibility. I always knew that I wanted to fight in especially here. This was kind of, Jessica alluded to it being like the episode when everything starts to the dominoes start to fall. And this is kind of the first one. And so, I remember being on set, and I remember thinking, can you guys kind of figure out a fight? Because I knew you had stunt training and Britt had stunt training. And that fight is basically all you. Everything that we see, I had really no input on that. I know we needed to end up, separated, where you guys have you have that monologue, but how we got there, that was up to you. So that was awesome. How did you guys get to that point?
I remember it had to end in the choke. And that was like always the idea. So I was like, okay, how can we get it to end in a choke? And it was like, but it has to be a struggle. And I think it was like mostly Brittany. Cause I remember I'd be like, we'll do this. And she'd be like, no, let's do this. And like, it was just like, great. And you, I think, had recorded the entire thing too. Like cause it was like, it has to be fast. Yeah. It can't be like this long fight. And it has to be like simple enough that it like works on film. And I think like she was just like, all right, so like, you're going to push me. And I was like, okay. And then after I push you, we're going to like get on the ground somehow. And then we'll just kind of figure out a role. And I think it was Brittany that came up with the role.
Yeah. The role was fantastic, man. That was so crazy. Awesome. I know. I'm so excited to share like our BTS photos of it. It's just even like the like stills of it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Like
so much fun.
It's one of those too, where, like if you're watching it, like, you don't know if it's just like editing and like how you cut it to make it like work and stuff. And I'm like, no, like they legit like did these tumbles, like you guys
and it looked awesome in like the film, like because you had like just like the straight, like the one shot of just like the tumble, and I was like, that looks so good.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like I just every time I watched it, I was like, oh my god, it looks so good.
Yeah. You guys did such a good job with that. It was great to be like and the other part about it too is you guys always went for it. Like there was never a point. I think I remember hearing it has to look visceral, it has to look real. And that was coming from you guys. So I'm like, yeah, that's great. Just, we all say be safe, don't get hurt. That's always the biggest thing about when we have some type of stunting. But what came out of that, and it's always, for me, it's always magical because how you want it to be, and then to kind of communicate that. And, between you and Britt kind of working that out, and the way it landed for me, it was so cool to have no input and then come back and be like, yeah, this is what we came up with. And it just being what it turned out to be, which was awesome. So that was so much fun.
One thing that I remember about the role, and the role was the hardest part to do because we both had to have like enough force into it, or we would just kind of go like, ugh, and just kind of land and have nowhere to go. So we both like, which was why we kind of like swing each other right before the roll. And I remember this was just because it was like, we have to have enough oomph to land on the ground and continue rolling. So we both like swung each other so forcefully that we would continue rolling.
Like the momentum.
Yeah. And it was, because I remember when we practiced it a few times, we would just like land and we were like, oh God. Oh, and like
we're like trying to pull each other over, like,
oh yeah. I think I landed on top of her a couple of times. I was like, I know we're really good friends. Like, like this is fine.
Right.
This is just a different movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
I know, which I think is really good that you guys were, like friends, like ahead of time, because then that trust was like already pretty there, easy for you guys to get into it. And that's why we cast certain people a lot of times too, is we're like, okay, we know they're going to be safe. We know they can do this and stuff. Like we can lead so far, but it's like, we really, it's great when we can work with people who are like going to go for it and kind of figure it out themselves as well too. Like we can put input, but it's just, safety's number one. So it's, having you guys both know each other ahead of time so you could work it out is like super helpful.
It was so awesome working with you guys. And it was actually my very first film experience.
Really?
I'd never done a film before, like, or a web series or anything. I'd only done like classes, and I shot like a short in Michigan when I was like 18. Oh
my gosh.
So this was like my first LA thing. And so it was always like hold like a place in my heart, like super important So
that makes me happy.
Really loved it. And you guys were so welcoming, and it was just so much fun to do.
Well, thank you. And I would never have guessed that too, Katy. Honestly, like when you were on set, it's like, oh, she's been doing this for a while. Like we have to make sure that our level of professionalism.
We're the ones being like, oh my God.
Like, bring her some water.
I've done like theater, but I'd never done film. And I was just like, well, hopefully it's similar. I'm just going to listen to everyone and hopefully it's fine.
I was going to say, like your movement and stuff is just like fantastic. Like me and Chris have done like zombie films in the past and stuff and had to do like people moving certain ways and all. And that's just such a skill in itself.
Yeah.
And like, so it's just not even like your acting level, of course, is wonderful, but it's just like the movement you bring to it really just sells this thing like 100%. Like there's just, I don't know. It's so, I'm so happy with how this turned out. Like,
thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys are happy because you're like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm great. How are you?
Well, and it's true. Like Chris says this all the time. We're always, in the end, we always want to kind of please the actors. Honestly, we're like the people involved with the film or the people we're like looking to be like, hopefully they're proud too. Like we want to be proud of our own work, but we want them to feel proud too. We'd hate to put someone through, like the makeup that you had to do and then all the stunt stuff that you had to do in those long hours. And then by the end, like the blood, not to mention the blood that's all over you by the end of it.
But it tasted so good, guys. That was like my first interaction with Jessica. It was just like putting like the blood bag on.
Yeah.
That's an intimate thing to do too, right?
It has to go in your pants. And I was like, I also brought like stretchy pants too. And you're like, perfect, because it's going to have to go in. And I was like,
we gotta put it inside. I know.
Half in my pants, half out of my pants. So it was like I had like this kind of like beer gut thing going on.
Yeah, that was exactly right. Because it's just this like pouch of like
it was a pouch, which like it's like hidden really well in like the video. But I just remember that, and I just remember it was like, okay, it's gonna go in your mouth, but it tastes great. It's like it's like the syrupy sugar stuff.
Yeah. That's all it is.
It tasted really good. And I was like, this is fine.
Well,
and you
that's so good.
Place after too, and that was great.
Right. It's good. That's like the requirement. You're like, okay, now go home, drive in your car with like your pants full of blood. It's fine.
But just because it was like the second time I'd ever been in your house, because I had to like pick off like all the boils.
Oh my gosh.
That were on my face, and you given me like all these like makeup removers. I literally like re-cleaned your bathroom because I was like, I don't want to leave like anything there. Like, I don't want there to be like remnants of like the blood, because they're probably making me want to like shower or take a bath after this too, and I just like re-cleaned everything that I had touched.
It's so hard. Like getting that makeup off is like, it's a whole journey in itself. And then, you're right. It's just messy. It's so messy.
It was like your bathroom before you saw it. It was like a murder scene. Like it was just as bloody as the shoot.
Right.
And but you doing the makeup, Jessica, was amazing, and the effects looked so good too.
They turned out really good, huh?
It looked really well. My mom, when she called me after she saw the trailer, was like, "Katy, did you break your nose?" Because like that had like the boils on my nose.
Yeah, we did that one that was like, it looks so good.
Yes, I know. But she was freaking out. And I was like, Mom, I didn't shoot this like yesterday. I was like, I'm not.
This was a while ago. The nose is healed. No, I'm just kidding.
I just didn't tell you about it.
It's fine.
It was an experience, but I wanted it filmed. I had to have it recorded.
Right. Immortalized.
Yes.
Right.
No, I'm really proud of that too. And I think that really does come with like the collaboration of, because I mean, as much as you try to do what you can for makeup to make it look really good, like in person and everything, it's like, there's always going to be like faults in it. And it's like, working with Chris as long as I have now, luckily it's like become that thing where it's like, okay, we talk about like, hey, like where's the best angles to shoot this, and like if this works or not, because he knows like if I see it after the fact, I'll be like, oh my gosh, you can't film it from that angle, there's like the whole seam you can see if you just I freak out afterwards. I'm like, we can't use that take because you can tell like
But it also looks so good with like the veins and everything like coming up from the neck. And it was also so perfect to have the one when I'm on top of Brittany, like the one shot that's of me that has like the boils and you can see perfectly. And then it's like right after that, it's the shot of like looking at her to see if she has the veins and the boils. And and I was like, oh, that looks so perfect because she doesn't have any of that. And I thought that worked really, really, really well. And one thing that I remember is being really nervous about doing the fall on the ground and vomiting, because it basically had to be done in one take. But again, like when I get nervous, I make jokes about things. So I remember when I was doing like whoa, and like things were happening, I was doing like Muppet head for Brittany, like when it was on her. And I am like, I can see the Muppet head, like in the blurred out shot where I'm just going like, and, like, down to the ground. And I'm like, oh God, yes.
I love it. I was like in the memory where you're being like, ha ha.
I didn't even know. And I didn't even know it was like an over the shoulder. I think I was just like, it's just on Brittany. And I'm just like, whoa, and going down. And I was just like, oh, great. They kept the Muppet.
Oh man, that makes me laugh so hard then to think about like just Brittany on the other side and just acting through that.
Honestly, that looked violent. I felt bad watching it again because you look like you really hit the ground hard. Like that was, when you fall and you hit it, it's like, oh shit. I don't remember it being that.
The hands, because you wanted it to sound loud. So it was just the hands.
Yeah.
But you were like, okay, not to put any pressure, but like one take. Okay.
Yeah.
We need you to fully go to, I know, it's just so.
I was like, I have to practice it like a couple times. Hold on. Like,
right. Yeah.
Worked on it with me because you showed me the choreography for it. And you're like, this, and it's okay. Cause like, you'll just get your hands. You won't get your knees. Cause you were worried about me getting my knees.
Dude, it's always cause knees are so easy to F up.
They are. But it looked so good. And it looked really good in the trailer too.
I'm super glad with how it looked. It was trailer worthy, right? It was trailer worthy.
Yes. So. Yes.
You guys are like so into like horror and stuff too. Yeah. So it's so easy with that. Like you guys dig that stuff, which is I'm the same way. I'm like, I dig it. I'm like, let's get messy or let's do it, but it's not everybody feels that way.
No. Or like Brittany, who's terrified of horror. So like when it's actually happening to her, she's like, you're freaking me out.
I'm terrified of you too.
I know she like watches like things she's in and is still like terrified. And I'm like, you were there. You know.
We did this together.
Right?
Like, I don't know.
It's interesting. So I want to talk about how we came up with like, so in the film, basically, Katy, your character has kind of cut out whatever we think that was inside of her. And so how did that gag, Jessica, come to be? And how did you kind of, like we talked about it before, but how did you like, get it onto to Katy where she could like, because I don't think we cut away. Once we loaded it onto her, it was on her. Like we didn't have cutaways where she was fishing around for nothing down there. Like the bag was on her pretty much the whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we may have even reloaded it at one point, but I think it's like
we did. You had a huge jug, and you were just like, "Let's just get a little bit more in there."
You had it in the script, of course, that like she had dug this thing out of her, and there was several talks, different times about like how we were going to do this, and of course, like. When it becomes really complicated, Chris is like, let's just simplify it. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be this complicated. But I'm always like, well, if we can try to get it done, let's do it.
That's also true.
Go big or go home.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that one, it was like, I had been brainstorming forever on it, trying to figure it out. And finally, it's the silliest thing. It was like, I had this big like latex piece that was like, it was supposed to be like cut out ribs or something, I think. And then like, the backside of it was just like a normal painted like skin color. And I just was like, oh my gosh, if we just like attach this thing, it could literally work as like a pouch basically. And like, we would just put a blood bag in there. And then like, I think I sent Chris this like weird picture of like my stomach with me like holding against it, like putting my fingers in. I was like, what about this? Like, do you think, and of course he's like, what are you sending me? Right? Some weird news. Right. Yeah. And so then I think we had to reach out to Katy and still be like, hey, would you be cool with this if we do something like this? Can you bring clothes that you don't mind getting like almost destroyed and stuff like that. Like, and kind of going from there, which of course, you know, I hadn't met her yet. So I was very much like, I don't know, but, you know, now we know her and we're like, oh yeah, she's so down. Like,
do it to me.
You would like dig into that thing. It was so cool. I only died that we didn't get a closer shot of it because I think we could have sold it in a closer shot. I think we were a little scared about doing it, and I think we should have just went for it.
It looked so cool though, and I didn't even realize how much exposition it was until I was like, that's a lot of exposition. Like, yeah, it actually like works well. Like with like all the exposition, because things are at least happening with all the exposition. Yeah. It's not just like, I'm just going to deliver this monologue. It was like, oh, good. Like there's like things, there's a fight, you know, it's like a whole bunch of stuff's going on.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think, Jessica, you like poked a hole in it and you're like, okay, when you dig in it, like make sure to kind of get the sides so to like really pour out. Like,
that's right. Where I was like, push it and then it'll
just like push it in. Like and you will know where it'll be. And I was like, okay. And I would like have to like dig under my pants a little bit because it was
my gosh.
There, was, like, resting there. So I was like, if I just like push in my stomach a little bit and like
I know. You worked it so well though. Like it worked for like the fact that she's trying to dig this thing out and then like you were like digging. Oh, it was just so gross. Like, and even your own reaction to it. It's like, I would feel it when I would watch it. I was like, oh, like,
I love that. The reaction to when you were like, oh, I would feel it move. I'm like, oh, that like, was all you. Maybe we said, hey, she feels something here, but that was all you. You kind of came up with that. So it was fucking awesome. So yeah, that coupled with, you know, the crunchy, bloody sound effect plus your reaction to it. Oh man, that was just, it was the perfect storm of how to really sell that effect. And yeah, that was awesome. So it was so cool. I love that effect. And Jessica's right. I was nervous. Like, fuck, how are we going to do this? Maybe we can just have her dip her hand in blood and then pull it out. You know, there are ways to kind of fake it. But yeah, I mean, Jessica's like, hey, let me try and brainstorm this. And then we come up and she tells me, I'm going to make a pouch. And we're going to attach it to her stomach and she's going to dig her hands in there and blood's going to come out the side. I'm like, how do I? Okay, if you can make
I know, he literally was being like, I don't know, but if you want to try it. And I was like, it's going to be great.
Yeah. When Jessica says it's going to be great, I'm always like, yes.
Okay, then it's going to be good.
and this is in addition to, you know, you had the boils on your face too. So we had to apply those. And then before that, I think we had to apply the veining, right? So what order? Too, yeah. So it was veining, boils, and then the bag?
Oh my God, it's a lot.
All of my if my friends that have seen it, they're all like, okay, so are we going to get like a spinoff of you just like killing like so many different motherfuckers before getting to Brittany?
Yes.
Like they're like, because you really killed so many people and you had a knife at one point to cut it out.
So good.
So they're like, are you just going around the neighborhood going, all right, who's home? Who am I going to kill?
Next, yeah.
And then running off, because I do run off and they're like, all right, spin off. You're still out there. You're still killing people.
Right. We don't know. I'm like, she's still around.
Right. And I'm so excited for people to see where the story's going.
I'm excited to see where the rest of the episodes go. Because like I read the script, but I've already there's already been like some changes that I've seen from the script. And I'm like, I love all of it and more effects. Like super excited. I know. Like, we got like our stuff way earlier, I'm assuming, than some of the others. So I'm so excited to see that and like everything else play out.
Me too. Well, Katy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your night to talk about this episode. You again, I could sing praises all night about how well you guys did. So,
thank you. Ditto, seriously.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and sign us off. I will say we've got 4 more episodes, so just be sure to keep on watching.
Every Friday. Episode every Friday. You can catch it on either on YouTube, on Carter Inc. Films page, or you can go to omegawebseries.com. We also have an Instagram. We have Facebook, so you can follow there too as well for updates.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.